Coming up, congratulations to the class of 2023. We meet one grad who is earning his 6th degree in 5 years. And an attorney from the Native American Rights Fund tells us about students and their rights to wear traditional regalia at graduation. Plus, we check in with NCAI's Youth Commission co-president on upcoming initiatives. I'm Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Amarawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. We begin in New Mexico, where a well-respected leader and sovereignty advocate from Okeyewinge has died. Joe A. Garcia is a former two-time president of the National Congress of American Indians. Before his death, he was Okeyewinge's head councilman and had previously served 3 terms as governor. His family did not publicly say what his cause of death was, but did say he was honored with a traditional funeral. Garcia attended the University of New Mexico, where he earned a degree in electrical engineering. He worked for the Los Alamos National Laboratory before retiring in 2003. Garcia also supported education, including being vice president of the Board of Trustees at the Santa Fe Indian School, which supports about 700 Native American middle and high school students. NCAI President Fawn Sharp said his passing is a significant loss for Indian country. Garcia was 70 years old and is survived by his wife, daughters, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Despite a federal ban on harvesting baby eels, indigenous fishers in Maine traveled north of the Medicine Line to get a piece of the money-making market. APTN's Angel Moore has the latest.
These fishers are dipping their nets, hoping to fill them with elvers. But what they were doing is illegal according to the Canadian government. But Adam Newell doesn't care.
But we have to continue this fight because our people died for it. Our ancestors fought and died for this, for us here today. And we're going to honor them. We're going to honor their deaths. We're going to honor that by continuing to fish in a very management way, in a very conservation way.
On April 15th, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans banned harvesting elvers for 45 days due to violence and poaching. But Newell says treaties take precedence over colonial laws, as stated in the 17th century peace and friendship treaties. Fisherman Eric Francis says,
"We use our treaties to fish all over, wherever we can, our ancestral lands. And that's a big thing, is allowing us to have the access, our children, our grandchildren, and so on."
Not only that, Newell says the treaties were in place before there was an international border.
Back, 300-400 years ago when the treaties were created, there was never a border for our people. We passed freely.
The Passamaquoddy traditional territory includes southern New Brunswick and the state of Maine, and occupied the coastal regions, including the Bay of Fundy. Newell says,
To us, there's our ancestral lands, our ancestral waters. And for the Passamaquoddy, the Passamaquoddy, it goes into Nova Scotia. Our Mi'kmaq relatives were always relatives of ours, so we would gather together, we would hunt together, we would fish together.
For Peter Clement and his brothers, sons, and nephews, fishing is a family affair.
We are all fishermen. We've been all fishermen most of our lives. I can remember back fishing black salmon in Quebec with my father, exercising these same rights that we have and always had.
The fishery is controversial. Some say it is not a traditional fishery. Eric Francis says,
You can look on a bigger picture. You know, we harvest veal. There's all kinds of different things that we harvest. People eat eggs. Those are undeveloped babies, right?
As the sun begins to rise, the elvers are kept in buckets with air pumps, so they are kept alive. The fishermen say they will keep fishing, and fisheries officers have stopped by, but no arrests have been made. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Southwestern Nova Scotia.
A hit series on Hulu is coming back for a third season. FX's Reservation Dogs announced its show will be back on TV screens later this summer. The series, which follows a group of Indigenous teens from rural Oklahoma, has been a huge hit with viewers and drawn in numerous awards. The new season, which will consist of 10 episodes created by Sterling Harjo and Taika Waititi, will be available to watch on Hulu on August 2nd. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Lennon Audrain has earned his 5th degree in 6 years. He is Cherokee and Shawnee and was the youngest graduate from both his master's classes at Arizona State University and Harvard. Audrain recently received a PhD in educational policy and evaluation and is now an assistant professor at Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. I sat down with him to hear more about his accomplishments. Hello there and congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
So 5 degrees in 6 years. What's your secret?
Good scheduling and a lot of sleep. I love taking naps. I think having a community of individuals around you who are going to support you, who you can go to ask questions when you need help, and knowing what the short-term and the long-term plan looks like really helped to get me there in that short amount of time.
What was the process like for you after, you got your first master's degree and you thought maybe I'll get a second and a third and a fourth? What was that process like for you?
When I was in the middle of my first one, I had started applying to PhD programs, and I was talking with Carol Basile, who's the dean of the Teachers College, and I had been rejected initially from Harvard University's doctoral program, but they said, come and do a master's. And at the time I was 19, and I was talking with Dean Basile, and she said, you're 19. You should go enjoy life somewhere else for a bit. And so in the middle of that, I decided, I was 20 years old. I moved to Boston. I taught Latin, Spanish, and English at Brookline High in the morning, so I still got to keep a foot in the classroom. I would take my classes in the afternoon at Harvard. And then in the middle of that Harvard degree, I was then applying to doctoral programs, which is how I ended up at ASU.
And do you have a particular educational motivation?
My parents are absolutely an inspiration, and I think American kids just deserve better. I think as I'm thinking about my experiences as a teacher, as a student in schools, I just want better working conditions for teachers. I want teachers to come to work excited about coming to work. I want students to come excited about coming to school. I want schools to be doable for teachers, and I want schools to be worth doing for students. And so, I've been working at ASU on the Next Education Workforce Initiative. We're thinking about redesigning schools across the United States and how that might work for different populations of students, how that might support educators in ways that our current model of schooling doesn't. And so my work in education has really been drawn from my experiences as a student and as an educator.
We've heard from so many teachers that coming off of COVID, they really feel tired, they feel bogged down.
Yeah.
What are some ways when you're talking to teachers that you really want to excite them? Or what about teaching right now seems really popular?
We're at such a pivotal time. I think we have technology that we've never had before. We have artificial intelligence that's coming that will hopefully make the jobs of teachers easier, but we know it'll never replace them. We have teachers coming together and realizing that the pandemic isolated us in terrible ways, and in some ways, right, the social isolation that we faced was hard. And so one of the things that I think is exciting about the work that we're doing at ASU is we're saying, yes, look, COVID brought really tough isolation. To make teachers want to come to work, we have to give them opportunities to work together. As a high school teacher, I see other teachers during passing period, maybe before school or after school or at lunch, but I never get to see teachers in the pivotal moments of when I'm working with students. And so I think about how do we bring and build systems so that other teachers can co-teach together, can team teach together, so that you have another adult in the room, because that's part of the hard part of teaching right now, is that you don't have anyone else to engage with. And so one of the promising things I think that we're doing at ASU in a post-COVID world is saying, yes, isolation was tough, and teaching in isolation is even tougher, so let's reduce that and bring more people around kids and more people around other educators so they can collaborate and coordinate in different ways.
I'd love to learn more about your research at the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, so tell us about that.
So I'm an assistant research professor there now, and so what I do is I work on redesigning human capital management systems in Mesa Public Schools. And so we have an $8 million grant from the U.S. Department of Education to rethink hiring, rethink evaluation, rethink recruitment and retention of teachers so that we can get better teachers in our systems and we can make the teachers in our systems even better. And so we're rethinking how teachers work together. Instead of being one teacher, one classroom, working on teams, how do we rethink the pathways that teachers get? You know, when you want to be and you want a higher salary as a teacher, typically that means leaving the classroom. And so really good teachers have to make a choice between being a really good teacher or making more money and having to leave the classroom. And so how do we build pathways that keep them in the classroom, close to kids, so that they're able to advance in the profession and make more money, but still be at the core of schools and instruction and kids. And so that's my work at ASU, is thinking, how do we redesign our educational system so that it becomes more personalized for students, more coordinated and collaborative for teachers by building team-based staffing models in schools across the country.
We know that for Native American students in particular, some of the data in terms of access to education is very glaring. Does any of your research focus on Native students in particular?
We're looking at the outcomes of a Native student population right now at Westwood High School, and we know that they have one of the largest populations in the state. And so we are looking at the student outcomes of students participating in these models. Do Native students have higher attendance rate? Do they have higher attendance rates? Do they have better retention in schools because they now, instead of only having 7 adults that they all have to manage their relationships with, they have a team of adults coming to surround them and make and build community around them so that they feel welcomed about coming to school. And so the outcomes are still early, but we're seeing promising things at Westwood High School writ large for all the 9th graders who are there. And then we'll dig a bit deeper into subpopulations such as Native American students soon.
Well, Lennon, I've loved this conversation. Congratulations to you again, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
While graduation season is an exciting time, there are still barriers to break through. Earlier this month, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt vetoed a bill that would have allowed Native American graduates to wear traditional regalia at graduations. I spoke with David Gover, who is an attorney with the Native American Rights Fund, about the latest legal developments around the topic. What is the Native American Rights Fund's view on Native Americans being able to wear regalia at graduations?
Sure. So, each year around this time, we get lots of requests for assistance from students and families, who come up to this issue where they're being denied the right to wear their traditional regalia or their eagle feathers or plumes and exercise their religious practices. And so it's an opportunity for us to educate and to hold school districts accountable, right? We know there are rights when it comes to religious activities, right? That's provided to us in the United States Constitution and the state constitutions. We have state laws that recognize these rights, and it's time for those rights to apply to our Native students and our Native families. So that's what NARF is doing these days, mostly in the springtime when it comes up for graduation ceremonies.
Give us a rundown of some of the ongoing legislation efforts in the states of Colorado, Minnesota, and North Carolina.
Sure. So there's lots of states, I think 12, that already have state legislation or acts on the books. When we look at Alaska, for example, Arizona, California, Kansas, and Mississippi, and there's a few more. But we also just saw a lot of activity this legislative time where Colorado introduced legislation and passed it. We have bills pending in Oklahoma and Texas, as you mentioned, in Minnesota and North Carolina. So this is ongoing now, where we have lots of activity on this front. And I want to make an important point about that state legislation. Now, those acts are helpful, but they are not the end all be all, right? Those rights already exist, but this is a way for states to clarify and make sure that their school districts have these protections and make sure that those students can exercise their religious rights.
You mentioned Oklahoma. Based on your understanding, where does the legislation fall right now, given that the governor vetoed the bill last week?
Right. So we're looking at in Oklahoma Senate Bill 429, and this is a bill that was passed in the Oklahoma Senate 90 in favor and 1 opposing. It also received unanimous support in the State House chamber. So pretty much everybody, right? Everybody but one person approved this bill on the legislative side. Well, the governor noticed or made the statement, I think we all saw that, that we can't have this special law and we got to leave it to the school districts to protect those rights. And, that is simply wrong. And as a matter of fact, NARF, in teaming up with a law firm called Pipestem Law, is actually bringing a lawsuit specifically on that issue. You might recall last May in 2022, a student was denied their right to wear their eagle feather in Broken Arrow School District. And that student, Lene Black, is now pursuing a lawsuit to remedy that issue. It's ongoing. As I understand it, the Senate bill has not, or the veto has not been overridden, and so you'll see a lot of activity from the tribal leaders, and NARF stands with those tribal leaders and calls on the Oklahoma State Legislature to override that veto, and they should act swiftly.
I want to make sure that our viewers at home are taking something away from this interview. Given that it's graduation season right now, what are the rights of graduating Native students do they have if they show up to graduation dressed in their regalia and they're told they can't be dressed that way?
Well, the best thing to do is to get ahead of this issue, right? So in the fall, in a perfect world, in the fall or early spring, you make a request to your school districts, know what their policies are. The school districts also have an obligation to notify the students of what their dress codes might be. And that should provide an opportunity for Native students to seek an accommodation if there is a prohibition on these practices. But at the end of the day, students do have the right. It is a constitutional requirement, both under state law and under the United States law. And they should be proactive in their efforts, educating the school district. And of course, if the school district continues to deny it, well, then you might have recourse afterwards. But we've seen situations where they've been denied and prevented and physically prevented those students from attending with, let's say, an eagle feather on their cap. Those are the worst case scenarios. And then it becomes, well, what can we do to hold those schools accountable? So, but to get ahead of it, be proactive and reach out. NARF has some resources on the website that can assist folks, and we've done letter campaigns on behalf of families and students. So those are a couple of ways to address the issue.
Well, David, we only have a short time left here, but while we have you here, it's been a while since we gave our viewers an update on the ICWA case before the U.S. Supreme Court. Give us an update on the status of that case and when we could possibly expect a decision.
Yeah, so you're mentioning the Brad Keene case, and that is currently pending in the Supreme Court. It's under review, and I'm not going to speculate and say I know what day it's going to happen, but usually by the end of the term, which is late June, maybe early July. But it could be issued any day now. So we're all anxiously awaiting that decision for sure.
Well, NARF attorney David Gover, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Looking ahead to future Native graduates, Yananoe Logan is the co-president for NCAI's Youth Commission. She is currently a student at Cornell University studying environment and sustainability. I spoke with her recently. Hello to you, Yananoe.
Namaskano. Hi.
Tell us about some of your duties and what it's like working on the Youth Commission for NCAI.
Yeah, of course. So this is my second term on the NCAI Youth Commission, and this term I serve as the co-president. A lot of what we do is organizing community events within our own internal communities, and then we bring it back out to the greater Indian country youth to provide workshops and different resources for youth at our conferences or online virtually. And so a lot of that is just kind of organizing community, but also a few things that I'm personally working on are different resolutions and kind of different issues that we're trying to shine light on and bring advocacy towards on specific different issues in Indian country.
NCAI's mid-year conference is approaching pretty quickly. How have you been preparing for that, and what can people expect to hear from the Youth Commission?
Yeah, so I'm really excited for this year's mid-year conference. It's going to be in Minneapolis, and we've been having biweekly meetings, organizing different speakers and sessions and events and cultural programming for attendees. And we're really trying to ramp up our youth participation this year. We had a lot show up for our Executive Council winter session, and it was really exciting to see how many youth are engaged and willing to speak up and be advocates in Indian country. So yeah, and then we kind of have been meeting a lot, but we're expecting to see some workshops on leadership development, professional development, scholarship success, and then just kind of very entertaining workshops as well with different advocates and idols in Indian country that we're hoping to invite some writers, some authors, some youth that have started some really great initiatives in Indian country. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
We're seeing clips here of last year's State of the Indian Nations address, which of course you participated in. What were the high points that you shared with tribal leaders?
This was an extremely rewarding experience for me. I knew that if I was going to present to Indian country, that I wanted to say something that not only demanded something from our leaders in Indian country, but highlighted and acknowledged and celebrated the youth and the initiatives that we're bringing to the table today. And so that's kind of how I framed my talk. It was really like a young Indigenous woman framed speech that highlighted the initiatives and in all different areas of Indian country advocacy, as far as MMIW and climate change and Indian boarding schools. And so that was really like a rewarding experience, and to see that the data is important, the numbers are important, the STEM side of academia and research, it's all important, and that we need to kind of uplift the youth that are participating in that.
On top of all of this work, as I mentioned, you're a student at Cornell. What made you interested in majoring in environment and sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a really easy choice for me when I was applying to Cornell. I didn't have a great idea of what I wanted to do, but environment and sustainability was really what I knew best and what my traditional upbringing kind of taught me to focus and advocate for. And it tied in great with my writing that I grew up with my mother. She's a great writer. And so I knew that I had strong writing and I had a strong focus in environmental sustainability issues. And so now I'm in the environmental humanities, and I'd like to write about issues and speak up for issues. And so that's kind of where I ended up with climate change advocacy.
You're also part of the Native American and Indigenous student group at Cornell. Tell us about some of the issues that you bring awareness to through that group.
Yeah, so I serve as the co-chair. This is my second term, and that has been a community that is just like makes my heart so full. This year we planned a student panel that spoke about the Indian boarding school experience and our experience as generational spawns of that. And then we just finished a fundraiser for MMIW that donated the proceeds, $1,700 of the proceeds to Rising Hearts, which is established by Jordan. Sorry, I can't remember her name right now, but it was a great fundraiser, and it goes to Indigenous women's resources. And we, a group of 10 of us ran around our Cornell campus, a 5K, and we were dressed in red. We had awareness, and we had the signs, and we just kind of brought awareness, and we brought those funds back to home, and we also carried a lot of medicine with us, and so that was really important. But those are just a couple of things. A lot of the time we're just focusing on community and building each other up and making sure that we're all succeeding in these institutions.
I'd like to swing back to the NCAI Youth Commission for youth who are listening to this interview and maybe want to find ways to get involved. What are the ways they can do that?
Yeah, I mean, reach out, follow us on Instagram. We have an Instagram, NCAI Youth, but we have pretty regular meetings that you can engage with via Zoom and come and ask us questions about how can you establish a youth council, how can you apply for college, how can you, be financially literate, like just things like that. And if you have any of those kinds of questions, feel free to reach out to anyone on the Youth Commission. And then, attend a conference. We are working on establishing a travel conference or a travel scholarship so that youth who aren't financially able to make to the conference are able to fly out and experience what the conference is kind of like and how to be participant and aware.
Well, Yenanoe Logan, we look forward to seeing what you continue to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.